Well, it's Wednesday in America, which means that we're barely through half of the week and it already feels like it's been an entire month. I keep wondering to myself if time will ever feel normal again, if there's going to be a moment where time just kind of moves and we flow with it as opposed to feeling like we're bashed over the head with it constantly, that we feel our bodies and our spirits and our souls being crushed inside of a vice. Because honestly, I'll tell you that for me, that's exactly how it feels to live in America, to try and stay up to date with the news, to try and stay safe, to try and hold on to joy. Feels like, half of your body is in a vice and the other half is being run over. So it's hard to keep your wits about you. And if you're like me and you get to Wednesday and you're here and in one piece, then let's give gratitude, let's be happy about it, and let's get into the fuck shit that Donald Trump dropped in Davos today, shall we? And trust me, I promise you, you will not hear his voice today. We're just going to talk about it. Buckle up, dear friends. Welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Let's get into it. Hello, dear friends, and welcome to the Danielle Moodie Show. Earlier today, I did a live show at the midweek check-in that happens with our good friend, my co-pilot, Wajahat Ali for Democracy Ish, over on my Substack, and his Substack, mine is The Damn Digest, where some of you may be watching this live right now. And I got to tell you, I lost my temper on not on Waj, because we know Waj and I are always on the same page, but I lost my temper because I find it, and I'm sure many of you do too, I find it really hard to kind of take things in stride and move through the moments of insanity that we are being forced to experience like they're normal. Right? Like it's really hard when I'm putting together clips of this show and I'm seeing things like, oh, well, Donald Trump now backs off of his plan to grab Greenland, but oh, ICE agents are on the ground kidnapping Somalis in Maine. And, and Democrats may block DHS funding, but oh, Hakeem Jeffries isn't going to whip the votes to ensure that Democrats are voting in unison to make sure that there is no more money going to these slave patrols, right? Um, and I'm enraged. Yes, somebody just said, maybe just said, I'm enraged 24/7, Danielle. Yes, I am. I feel and I know, folks, I know that it's not healthy. I know that it is not healthy to hold this type of energy and anger. And I try in many different ways, as I'm sure many of you do, to release it, right? To let go of it and control what we can. And what I will say is, I want to remind all of us, and as I say this, I say it to myself out loud. We still have power. We still have choices, right? We continue to lament on the fact that Democrats refuse to actually work on behalf of the American people. They've had 10 years to create a really forceful resistance against Donald Trump, and they don't. They haven't. And so the reason why there are even reports about Hakeem Jeffries now deciding that maybe he'll be on the side of folks to stop funding for DHS and actually use the tools that are provided to him right, as the minority leader to gum up the works of this fucking white nationalist regime, the only way that that happens is because we, the people, put pressure where the pressure needs to be. You see, we are looking for fighters. And what I continue to say is that there is no one inside of the Democratic establishment that is a fighter, that is willing to go against their corporate donors, that is willing to go against, right, Israel and AIPAC and actually work on behalf of the people that put them in office. So we, right, as Democrats, as their constituency, need to be on the phone calling Hakeem Jeffries' office and Chuck Schumer's office non-fucking stop and telling them, do not fund DHS or we're going to primary you. Because what I said earlier on midweek check-in democracy-ish with Waj is that if we do not have long memories and hold these people's feet to the fire, several months from now, if in fact we have midterm elections, we're going to have forgotten who decided to give funding to DHS and who decided to stand strong with the American people, who, just FYI, polling says Americans have turned on ICE and the Department of Homeland Security and Kristi Noem. And yet, you don't hear Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House, saying that we are now going to look at impeaching Kristi Noem. How many more Keith Porters and Renee Nicole Goods do we need? How many more babies need to be gassed and sent to the emergency room do we need to have? How many more clergy need to be beat to the ground? How many more people need to lose their eyesight because they were hit with a baton or a canister from these undertrained, over testosterone fueled men? Really, boys. So I said this yesterday that Democrats don't want to move on the Department of Homeland Security and around ICE because they are afraid. They still have this fear, this hungover fear from the 1990s when Republicans were successful in saying that they were soft on crime. It's why Joe Biden, right, was one of the architects of the 1990s something crime bill. You know, the crime bill that broke up the Black community, that put zero tolerance and had different measurements for crack and cocaine, except they were both drugs, but one was widely used by white people and the other widely used by poor Black people. So Democrats are always holding on to this fear that if they don't side with Republicans as it pertains to crime and law enforcement, then they're going to be said to be soft on crime. No. Do you know what you should be hard on? Slave catchers that operate outside of the law. People that are undertrained who are coming from the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers and other white nationalist bullshit fraternities that are being given signing bonuses of $50,000 to crack the skulls of Black and brown people and now white people. That's what you should be against. You don't need to be afraid of folks thinking that you voting to shut down ICE, to abolish ICE, to defund ICE, is somehow you saying that we don't need immigration enforcement. But this isn't immigration enforcement. That's your talking point. Donald Trump right now has sent ICE agents to Maine. Have you been to Maine? I know I have. I've spent many times up in Maine. Beautiful, beautiful state. Do you know what's not in Maine? A lot of undocumented immigrants. You know why? Because Maine is wildly white. Okay? Does Maine border any Mexico, funneling from South America? No. So we have to understand that this stopped being about immigration. I don't know if it was ever about immigration. It was always about racism. Do you know what Maine does have, though? A very small Somali population that Donald Trump has made it his mission to go after, all because Representative Ilhan Omar lives inside of that man's head rent-free. When Donald Trump said that he was campaigning on retribution, this is what this looks like. Attacking blue states for having the audacity to exercise their rights as citizens inside of a democracy and vote to choose who they want to represent them. So it's been New York, it's been Minnesota, it's been California, it's been now Maine. Do you know what states have potentially, I don't know, millions of undocumented people? Texas, Florida, Arizona. But you don't see or hear about ICE running up in there like some, ragtag cosplaying military group. No, they're just going to the blue states and cities that overwhelmingly voted against Donald Trump. And folks, I know that they are there, but do you see, are they tear gassing people? Are they beating people? Are they cracking open windows in that way? No, they're not. Right? Because those states have red governors that have gotten on the side of Donald Trump, and they want all those brown people and black people out of their states anyway. We need fighters. And the reason why I get so angry and so beside myself is not because I am performing. It is because I am genuinely, like many of you, in deep pain at seeing this country, this very imperfect nation, ripped apart. And it isn't because I operate under these false ideas that this isn't who America is. No, America has always been a police state. America has always functioned and operated under the systems of discrimination and oppression. It was only targeted towards Black people and Indigenous people and poorer communities. But now the majority of America, white America, is actually seeing what Black people have been talking about for ad nauseum for over 250 years. I believe that America has the ability to be better with each generation. It's why I chose the career that I did. It's why I worked in education policy. It's why I worked on LGBTQ equality. It's why I've worked for think tanks and members of Congress. Because I believe in the possibility of working to make America live up to its ideals. And so when I am heartbroken, it's not because I was living with some type of rose-colored glasses and looking at America and thinking that it's always been great. No, It's that I exercise my responsibility as a child of immigrants and a citizen to make it better, to make it work for everyone and not just a small group. So, for folks that consistently come at me in comments under these videos about, I wish you would curse less, and I wish you would do this, and I wish you would do that, folks, you have the ability to go and listen to anyone that you choose. If my language is upsetting to you, then you don't have to listen to me. But I don't, right? Silence myself or shrink myself or sanitize my language for the comfort of other people. I express what I feel and I say what I mean. So, again, I don't do it as a performance and I don't do it to offend people. I do it because I'm sick to my stomach. I do it because I remember the first day that I worked on Capitol Hill. I remember my first professional email address had a .gov attached to it because I was a Congressional Black Caucus fellow. I remember the feeling of going up the escalator at South Capitol and walking into the Longworth building and feeling like I was literally walking through history, and what an honor it was to have been chosen to be there, and how proud my family was. They defecated in that place. They stormed that place. They have no reverence for history. They have no care for the legacy that is this country. Because if you did, you could never act the way that those people acted on January 6th. You couldn't storm that place and defile it in that way if you held it in the type of esteem that I do. And so my anger is righteous rage that comes from a place of wanting and believing that the same country that gave my family an opportunity to give us all a bigger and beautiful life, that opportunity should not stop because somebody doesn't like the color of our skin or our accent or our religion or our sexual orientation or our gender identity or our ability. We all deserve that opportunity. And right now, I am ashamed. Donald Trump and MAGA have made me ashamed of this country to have the capacity to vote for a vulgarian, a rapist, a racist, a misogynist, and an idiot. Because I played for you yesterday. World leaders at the billionaire meetup called the World Economic Forum. I played for you Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Macron, the president of the EU parliamentary, and you could hear these people, educated, thoughtful, passionate, interested. And then you heard Donald Trump today. How he is not embarrassed, I really don't understand. But these people don't have the capacity for shame and they don't have the capacity for embarrassment. They should, because outside of the Mar-a-Lago MAGA bubble that has been created around Donald Trump, when he's actually in real life, Does he think that people like him? Does he think that these people respect him? They don't. Because honestly, this was an image that Donald Trump put up today or yesterday on his way to Davos. And someone turned it into a video. I'm going to play the video. But the fact that Donald Trump, a president, posted this picture of him with Rubio and that idiot JD Vance behind him with the sign that says Greenland, U.S. territory established 2026. This is what Donald Trump, I swear to you, the man posted this. But somebody turned it into a video. It doesn't have any sound, but the video, delightful. Thank you, whoever made this, because that is exactly what I would love to see happen. Because Donald Trump is just embarrassing. And so, given, right, that message that he tried to put out to the world, this was their response today. And this comes on the heels of the market closing, I think, down yesterday around 900 points. The S&P dropped 2 percentage points. I believe that like over $1 trillion was erased from Wall Street yesterday. EU halts approval of U.S. trade deal after Trump's Greenland tariff threat. A top European trade official said he supports deploying a powerful set of retaliatory measures, sometimes referred to as the EU trade bazooka. The European Union's legislative body on Wednesday halted work on the formal approval and implementation of the trade deal it reached last summer with Donald Trump. Quote, given the continued and escalating threats, including tariff threats against Greenland and Denmark and their European allies, we have been left with no alternative but to suspend work on the deal, said Bernd Lang, the chairman of the European Parliament's International Trade Committee. Until the U.S. decides to re-engage on a path of cooperation rather than confrontation, no steps to move the deal further would be taken, Lang said in a statement. Our sovereignty and territorial integrity are at stake. Business as usual is impossible. And you see, that's the thing. Everyone has been operating as business as usual. I mean, you literally had CEOs delivering Donald Trump gold bricks like they were going to visit a king. You have countries giving Donald Trump $400 million planes. You have people coming, groveling on their knees, whether it be law firms or colleges and universities. You see, Donald Trump doesn't respect groveling. He actually, we know, because they named a whole turn after it, Trump always chickens out. Taco. Because when a bully is challenged to their face, you often see them back up. Because basically, Donald Trump's entire foreign policy is about bullying people into doing what he wants and threatening them. But you see that when people decide not to take on the bully alone and they wrap arms around each other and protect each other, guess who begins to sing a different tune? Donald Trump, like he did today. Based on a very productive meeting that I've had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland and, in fact, to the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go in effect on February 1st. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available on discussions' progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others as needed will be responsible for the negotiations. They will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. So you see what happened there? The European Union said, yeah, so you know that trade deal that we put together last summer that you muscled us into? Yeah, we're not going to go ahead and sign that. We're actually going to back off and hold off of that. And as a matter of fact, we're considering possibly retaliatory tariffs to the tune of around $93 billion. And we know that we have been inextricably linked with the United States economically and militarily, but we're going to start to move away from y'all because clearly the old world, as Prime Minister Mark Carney from Canada said yesterday, is dead. This is not a transition, he said. It is a rupture. And he said, and no one should be mourning the loss of the old world, particularly middle nations like my own. Because what has Canada done? Well, Canada has decided that they're going to develop trade deals with China. They have put China back in the equation, not like China ever leaves, but they're finding their way around, as is the rest of the world. Donald Trump is not only hurting America during his term, and I say that with quotations because Lord doesn't believe that he's leaving in 3 years. Donald Trump has not just ruined our foreign relations and destroyed the trust that our allies had in us for his term. He is doing generational damage where if I am a European nation, if I am any nation, frankly, if I am Canada, if I am Mexico, I am no longer negotiating in good faith with America because y'all seem to change your mind. And you see, the thing that used to be is that while there would be Republican or Democrat in office and their domestic policies would vary depending on whether they had an R or a D behind their name, foreign policy always stayed pretty much the same, right? To further the stability of the world. Donald Trump has completely and totally upended that, forcing these countries in some respect to take on military responsibility, to take on different economic partners, to create alliances that they wouldn't have created without Donald Trump coming in like a bull in a china shop. So, like I said and continue to say, Donald Trump sometimes, I believe, is necessary because otherwise, you would hold on to your old way of thinking when his policies, his actions are showing us that we need to get rid of those. We need our own rupture of the bubble of the American exceptionalism, the America giant, the American good guys. We need to pop that fantasy and create a new story. Because now we're all waking up to the fact that the stories that we have been told have been lies. And it's okay. Sometimes when you initially, right, when we realize in a relationship that somebody has lied to us, we're angry, we're pissed, we feel betrayed. And then what do? We learn to spot that shit from a mile away so that no one can dupe us again. It doesn't mean that we don't trust. It means that we begin to trust the truth of our eyes and our ears. So Donald Trump has been necessary. And so his reaction on this deal that he says has been reached? Well, here's a statement that came out from NATO. Statement from NATO following Trump's announcement of a concept of a deal. Remember that? Related to Greenland after meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Quote, the Secretary General had a very productive meeting with Trump, during which they discussed the critical significance of security in the Arctic region to all allies, including the United States. Discussions among NATO allies on the framework the president referenced will focus on ensuring Arctic security through the collective efforts of allies, especially the 7 Arctic allies. Negotiations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States will go forward, aimed at ensuring that Russia and China never gain a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland. Does it sound as if they have an actual deal? Does it sound as if the ink is dry? Nope, sure doesn't. Sounds as if we're still talking, right? But for right now, Donald Trump has removed his threats, right, to Greenland to the tune of, okay, well, maybe I won't invade you today, but I may invade you tomorrow. We never know. And see, that's the fact. Is that honestly, we never really know, right? And so when asked, CNN asked Governor Andy Beshear from Kentucky what he thought of Donald Trump's speech, if one can call it that. I would just call it verbal diarrhea in Davos. Listen to what Andy Beshear said.
Said Canada owes its existence to the United States.
That was hugely disrespectful. And you now understand why Canadians have stopped buying American products like bourbon, why they stopped going to tourist destinations like Las Vegas. Every state can tell you how much their economy is losing because of those comments. But I think about the speech both in terms of how detached it was from what's going on in the United States. He claimed that inflation was under control, that our economy was doing great. So that is not understanding or acknowledging the financial insecurity of our families. But then he makes our country less secure based on calling into question global alliances that the rest of the world needs to believe that we are 100% committed to.
So, Andy Beshear, like Gavin Newsom and others that were there, were mortified and embarrassed by the things that Donald Trump had said, that this is their leader, right? And they were going there to shore up, right, like their own trade deals as a state with different entities. Like, hey, bourbon is really big where? In Kentucky. It's their, I don't think it's one of, I think it is their biggest export. And the world doesn't want it anymore. And that's because of Donald Trump, not because it's not good. So you see, dear friends, where we are. And there's no one better to tell us where the American people are in terms of their feelings than our friend over at CNN, Harry Ensign. you know that I love him.
And a suggestion among some that one of the things the president is trying to do by focusing on Greenland is maybe to distract from other things. With us now, CNN chief data analyst Harry Enton. So how much are people focused on Greenland opposed to other things?
Yeah, okay, so this is the whole idea, John. The President of the United States didn't like the focus on the Epstein files. We're going to change the subject and we're going to go over to Greenland. And from that perspective, it's worked. Look at this, Google searches versus December. For the Epstein files, down through the floor, far fewer people are searching for the Epstein files, down 72%. Of course, you can't fall any lower than down being 100%. Versus for Greenland, look at this, the highest on record, up like a rocket, almost up 1,600%. My goodness gracious. So if the idea was to distract from the Epstein files and focus the American people on something else, it has been a success by that metric.
But we don't know if that was the goal here, but if it was. Now, how is saying focus on Greenland opposed to the Epstein files in terms of focusing on an issue that's good for you?
Yeah, okay. So if this was the idea, right, well, it's a bad idea politically speaking. Why do I say that? Because take a look here. Trump's net approval rating on the Epstein files, look at that, just absolutely awful. 38 points below water. But any try to buy Greenland is somehow even more unpopular. Look at this. It's 40 points below water. There is barely an issue out there that's worse for Donald Trump than the Epstein files. But any attempts to buy Greenland or use military force on Greenland, which even polls worse than this, is one of them. It is arguably the most unpopular thing that Donald Trump can try to do is mess with Greenland.
So Greenland is polling worse than the Epstein files.
You got it.
All right. How is the president's approval rating right now compared to other presidents at this term?
Yeah, so the idea might be, hey, Donald Trump sees my approval ratings are low. I might try and raise them. This won't do it. And the truth of the matter is, if we're talking about a year into term number 2, look at this. I've got all the last 6 presidents who went into term number 2, got a year in. And you see this, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, George W. Bush. Donald Trump is below all of them. The only person who is even lower than Donald Trump when it comes to his net approval rating at this point into term number 2 is Richard Nixon. In any comparison, when you are into term number 2 in approval rating that you have, if you're anywhere close, as he's the only one lower, that is not a comparison that you want on your dial.
This is in the middle of Watergate.
Yes.
Harriet, and thank you very much.
So the only president that Donald Trump is above right now at this time during his second term is Richard Nixon, who was in the middle of Watergate. That's not really a column you want to be in. And, I would argue that the only reason why Barack Obama and Clinton were in the negative is because probably at that time with Clinton was, I'm assuming, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I think. Not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. And with Barack Obama, we know that Republicans had been messing with him since the beginning, right? So, I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. But here's what I, again, will go back to before I close out today. And I want to give some time for a quick town hall, because I also forgot when I said that I could do a town hall today that I had was coming up against something else bumping up on my calendar. But this is what I want to leave us with today. So if you have questions, dear friends, please do get them ready. Write question in all capital letters followed by your question. House Democrats come out en masse against DHS funding bill. As I said at the top, only a handful of House Democrats are expected to back a DHS funding bill. This week, after top party leaders spoke out against it during a closed-door caucus meeting Wednesday, according to 3 people granted anonymity to describe the meeting. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was among the many Democrats who spoke out against the bill. 2 of the people said that Representative Pete Aguilar of California, the number 3 Democrat, later told reporters he was against the bill, and that leaders heard overwhelmingly from members that this bill did not do enough to rein in ICE following recent clashes in Minnesota. And again, why Why are these members beginning to flip? It is because they are hearing directly from you. They are hearing from their constituencies. They are hearing, their phones are ringing off the hook. People are dropping by their district offices. And I am saying what I said earlier today on Midweek Democracy-ish on Substack. Folks need to call their offices. Call your member. Call Hakeem, Jeffries, and Chuck Schumer and say, I am a Democrat. You represent us. I do not want any funding for ICE. Zero it out. Zero it out. You have the power of the purse. Act like it. So that is what I will leave you with today. Dear friends, please do get your questions ready. Ask them, because we're going to get into it right now. Question from Every Eve. Why do we continue to think Democrats will do anything? Weak leadership. And I agree with you. The fact is that that's what we have right now. So we can't just throw up our hands and say that they are weak. We have to continue to hold their feet to the fire. I say stage sit-ins in their offices. I say make them have to unplug their phones. I say make them uncomfortable, because it isn't just marching against Donald Trump and marching against Kristi Noem. It is about marching against Democrats that are not putting up a resistance. It is about making their lives uncomfortable, following them where they go. Safe distance, of course, but you are saying, you represent me, and I don't want my tax dollars to go to slave patrols. So that's what I think about that. Question, Danielle, did you have any trouble returning into the country when you got back from vacation? Lisa Marie, thank you so much for that question. Thankfully, absolutely, I did not have any problems returning. I will tell you that my anxiety was through the roof the days before I was leaving Nairobi to head back to New York. I have global entry, and so that always makes not having to stand in customs lines and not having to speak to Border Patrol. It's why I got global entry. But yeah, I was still terrified, because I've heard and reported on here of many stories of people leaving for vacation, coming back and finding out that they are on a list and being held or being detained, having their computers look through or their phones look through. And thankfully that did not happen to me. Thanks for asking. Richard, question, just how fucked are we? I think you've been paying attention. I think that you know, which is why you're asking the question. Pretty effed. Question, will you be posting pictures or videos of your vacation? Oh, do you want to see pictures? Okay, mental note. I will put up some pictures tomorrow. Here for you guys. I'll put up some pictures. The elephants that I saw at the elephant orphanage, and the giraffes, so lovely. So I'll post some of those. Thank you, Susan, for putting up www.5calls.org. Is where you can get activated in calling your members. So check out that site, www.5calls.org. Looking for other questions. Question, Mountain Heather. Is withholding federal taxes something that could actually happen? Would they take notice? Oh, they would take notice, because that's where they get their money from. That's where they get the money from the Pentagon, the DHS, Donald Trump's salary, everyone's salary. Everything that they're doing comes from us. And I've started to see on social media, I don't know how real it is. And by real, I don't know how robust of an operation it is, but there are people that are calling for that, for people to withhold federal taxes, or to speak to your accountant about being exempt, right? Like, can you exempt yourself from federal taxes? There are some that file that. I heard that there is fear around that. So check with your tax person, or if you do your taxes yourself, look and see what would happen if I file exempt and do not give money to the federal government. Check and see. Rave Ruin question: how will we address the GOP election denying owner of Dominion voting that 27 states use? I don't know. I have no idea. This is why. It wasn't until 2020, folks, that, people were not trusting our elections. Our elections were the envy of the world, right? They're the cornerstone of democracy. And I don't know, because right now I'm not really 100% sure that Donald Trump really did win, right? Like, that's like the feeling that I have. I have no proof. It's just a feeling that I have, right? He had Elon Musk on his tab. He had bomb threats being called in to places. He won every battleground state. It just like all seems wonky to me. Have you seen Gus? Have you seen the reporting that Renee Good was still? Yes, I did. Still alive for several minutes after being shot. Yes, I did. I saw the press conference with physicians that said that she had a pulse after she was shot 3 times in the head, that she had a pulse. And there was a doctor on site. They denied access of EMT. I'm still waiting for charges to be filed. Right? Don't know if that will ever happen. But yes, I did see that. And it was just, can you imagine her widow? Can you imagine her family, her friends, and hearing that there was a possibility that she could have been saved, even if, right? Even like, my heart grieves for them. It really does. Oh, Sherry, good question. Hi, Danielle. Glad I was able to catch you live. But what are your thoughts on the whole Michael Cohen and his 5+ years of blowing smoke and playing everyone for a fool? Yes, as it turns out, Michael Cohen is crawling back to Donald Trump. And some say that it has everything to do with Epstein. That man was never to be trusted, right? Like, he lied for Donald Trump. Donald Trump threw him under the bus. He spent 5 years making money, right, on the fact that I was Donald Trump's and I'm standing up to him, and now he's crawling back to him. Yeah, he was never to be trusted. But folks love to have him on TV, boy. They love to buy his books, and they made him rich. Question: do you know let me see, know the only difference between watching this administration and sausage being made? At some point you get sausage. They are just this stupid. Love it. Norman, question: have you heard about the lawsuit against Gillibrand, spouse of a security aide who named her in the divorce, claiming alienation of affection? No, I will have to look that up. I do not know about that. Oh, good. Good for you. DPD. Danielle, my husband and I are going to Minnesota to protest. Do you think others should do the same? Yeah, I think that, people are doing the Lord's work there. I watched a video of this man on Don Lemon's show. He was interviewing him, who had organized folks in Minnesota to be outside of detention centers because they get alerts when people are going to be released. And what they have heard is that these people are being released without proper clothing to withstand below 0 temperatures, with no money, no access to phones, no nothing. They're just being dumped like packages in the middle of a street. And what this man, Jack, that Don Lemon, there was a clip of their interview, his interview on his Instagram, where he has organized folks to be at the detention centers with clothing and burner phones and money and food for these people. So folks are doing extraordinary things in this moment. So I think that whatever we can do to be of support, both in areas that are highly activated right now or in your own area, you should do so. So DDP, thank you for sharing that. Question, do you think all of the Epstein files will ever be released? Nope, sure don't. Philip, question, do you think a social revolution will only succeed with a moral revolution? Courage over cowardice, virtue over vice. Yes, I do. I think that a social revolution can only succeed with a moral revolution. I think that we need to heed, what I shared yesterday of Martin Luther King, of Dr. King, and saying not to sleep through the revolution. But I think that you need to ask yourself why you're activated now versus before, and whether or not that is sustainable. And what principles are guiding you in this moment, right? And understanding that this isn't just about one man. This is about getting rid of an ideology that has been allowed to move from the margins of our society into the mainstream. And so, yes, I think that this is an intertwined revolution of morality and social justice. So I agree with that. Yes, Meredith, did you go to the Seldrick Trust Orphanage? I did. That is exactly where I went in Nairobi, to that elephant orphanage. Have you been? It was so cool. It was so cool. And I learned all about them. Learned all about the Sheldrick family. The orphanage is still in the family's in this family's possession. Danielle, do you think Trump will get impeached if he tries to attack Greenland? I don't know. I don't know. There are so many reasons to impeach Donald Trump, and yet here he is. Question, Jen. I think we're at the intersection between imperial boomerang and Dietrich, is it Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity? What do you think? And if so, what do we do about it? Look, the only thing that we can do is continue to have our voices heard, continue. And I have been calling for a national strike. I know that folks are doing there are unions that have gathered and are trying to do a day strike in Minnesota on January 23rd, which is what? Not tomorrow, but the next day. And I say that I've been calling on unions, civil rights organizations, LGBTQ organizations, women's organizations to organize a national strike. No work, no school, no nothing. And following in the footsteps of the Montgomery bus boycott, it's going to take more than a day to get this done. And so what does it look like to create safety nets of care for those who are not going to be able to sustain for more than a day, right? But a national strike and shutting down the economic engine of this country is the only thing that is going to stop this regime. All right, dear friends, I want to thank you all so very much for Sherry. That is really cute. How is Pierre? And thank you for the $20 for my dirty martini. So y'all, Pierre, my sweet step baby puppy, just had surgery yesterday. He had a torn ligament and he just had surgery. He came out very successful, but he will be in healing mode for the next several weeks. So I appreciate you all asking. He's been a little trooper, but he tore a ligament in his little leg, and he's now on his healing journey. Guys, thank you all so very much. Folks, thank you all so very much. for showing up today and every day. I tell you, some days it's hard to turn on this microphone. It's hard, getting harder each and every day to do this work. And I do it because, one, I believe that I'm called to do it, but two, because of all of you and the support that you give me, the kind words that you share, the posts that you share, and the thoughtfulness that you have shown me over the last year of this show, honestly. So I want to give you a deep, deep thanks and a lot of gratitude for the support that you've given me and this channel. I want to shout out our super stickers and our super thanks. Zoe, thank you so much for the $9.99. Kathy, thank you so much for the $9.99. Daisy, thank you so much for the $2. Olive Oil, thank you so much for the $1.99. Kathy for the $4.99. Susan, our fabulous moderator, for the $10. Tiana for the $4.99. Shirley for the $19.99. Emead for the $10. Thank you to Soka Deb for becoming a member for 2 months. Folks, there are memberships available. If you're looking for a way to support my work monthly, you can become a monthly member, a member of the channel, the Danielle Moodie channel, but know that you will never be put behind a paywall, so you don't have to worry about that. Susan, thank you so much for gifting a membership. Amy, Wendy coming in from Canada. Our good people over there. Your prime minister, I hope, made you proud yesterday. I was envious. Thank you for the $24.99. PJ, as always, thank you for coming in so generously with the $49.99. It goes a very, very long way. Done with this. Same with me. Thank you so much for the $19.99. And Sherry, again, thank you so much for the $20. Y'all, the show is people powered. Every single dollar counts. And it goes a very long way, allowing me to do the work that I believe that I am called to do. Thank you, Karen, for becoming a member. I will be back tomorrow. God, it's Thursday already. It's crazy. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern, dear friends. As always, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane. And in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you back here tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.